Hello and welcome to this webinar about weight loss. Thank you for signing up to watch this. Um, as you may know, my name is Gloria Prest and I'm a psychotherapeutic counselor and a hypnotherapist. And I have been looking into the issues surrounding the difficulties of weight loss for some time, partly because it's something that I learned in my degree. I looked into the different motivations that people had to go into a diet and which type of diet they would choose according to the issues they had. I also studied the psychology of people who have diabetes and how, despite the fact that it is crucial for their health and their well-being to follow a particular healthy diet and a particular sort of lifestyle, they find great difficulties in sticking to it, even though they know it's dangerous and they will pay the consequences. The problem is when you have a delayed reaction to something that you do, it's very difficult to then take a decision in that moment that is going to be the good one. So I realized a long time ago now, and particularly since I've been learning more about the subconscious and the use of hypnotherapy, that knowledge and good information does not lead you to action. So people know what is good for them, they know what they should do, they know what they should stop doing. They have all the facts, they have all the understanding, they have all the logic to go with it, but somehow they can't bring themselves to do it. So this is why it is difficult to stick to a healthy way of eating, because there are so many things pulling us in different directions and the effect is not immediate. So you might eat something that you know is going to be fattening, but you don't see that extra volume in your body straight away. It will come, but it takes a little bit of delayed reaction, and it's a little bit like the diabetic people, that they don't see the immediate effect. So this is what it puzzled me for a long time. This is the question that puzzled me. Why is it that we can't stick to what we know is good for us? The reasoning behind it, the reason that I found, is that actually every day small decisions or immediate decisions, something that is not something major that you really have to think about, what we eat every day, it's a small routine decision. And our logical mind is not the part of our mind that's in charge of making those decisions. It's the subconscious mind that normally just does things on automatic and just makes you choose what you believe is your choice, but there is something that has made you choose that one particular thing that you're not necessarily aware of, because it is at the subconscious level most of the time. Yes, you do desire that thing, you've chosen because you desire to eat that thing, but why did that desire come from? So that's what we need to look into. Okay, so the consideration medically for whether someone is overweight or obese is normally taken from the results of the formula of the body mass index, the BMI. And if anybody is familiar with with Weight Watchers and other sort of kinds of diet, and with medical advice, they will see that, if your BMI is very high, you need to lose some weight. And if yours is very low, you need to put some weight. People who might be anorexic, so they consider BMI as the measurement that defines you as overweight, underweight, or obese. Now, the thing we need to take into account is that the BMI is not a particularly good tool for measuring whether you are overweight or not. Why? Because it doesn't take into consideration that bones, muscle, and fat have very different densities and therefore very different weights. So somebody might be very lean with lots of muscle fiber. They might have a very dense bone structure, because if you are very muscly, you're heavy and you need to have the good bone structure to support those muscles. So somebody who might be actually fit and slim might come under the overweight simply because their BMI is higher, because muscle is heavier than fat. So somebody might just be around the healthy weight when in fact they have very little muscle. They might have osteoporosis and very light bones, and they might have quite a lot of fat, even though in their volume in their body doesn't look like it, but that's not a healthy way of being. So when you consider if you want to lose weight, you need to consider, your body structure. Have you got muscle, or is it just mostly fat? Or is it the right ratio for what is should be healthy for you, for your body? The other thing that we need to look at is looked into is the equation that they give us for losing weight. Now, this equation is a very simple one, and is if you consume more food, but then obviously your body converts into calories, then the calories that you need for your daily activities and whatever sport you do, so it's not just for the sport that you do at the gym or whatever sport you play, but the everyday activities that you do, whether it's washing the dishes, take the rubbish out, walk the dog, just going to the garage and grab things, clean, whatever it is that you do. If you work in the factory or you work in the office, it'll be very different, the kinds of activities. So if the amount of food that you take and then convert into calories is higher than the amount of calories that you use doing your daily exercise and your daily routines, then you will put on weight, because what is not used is stored and you get bigger, so you get fatter. That is basically how it works. So if you want to lose weight, it's very simple. The equation is simplicity itself. Eat less calories than you consume with your daily activity, and you will see the weight coming down. And once you get to the right level, just simply eat the same amount of calories that you're going to consume. Now, that is simplicity itself, and is actually true. That's how it works. However, what it doesn't tell you is that controlling what you eat is not simple at all. It really isn't simple. There are many factors that will contribute to the size of your hunger, to the things that you may want to eat. And also you need to take into account that you might be very controlled, but you might have an inefficient system that does not metabolize the food appropriately, that it has some difficulties. Perhaps there are some enzyme that you don't have in your gut. Perhaps you don't have the right kind of gut bacteria, which we'll talk about later. Perhaps you may have a condition like polycystic ovaries in women. That is a condition that tends to induce weight gain, and it makes it very difficult to lose the weight. And also thyroid problems. If you have a thyroid problem, then your weight gain might be related to that, and that is not related to how much you control. You're eating, you might less, but you still may have a problem. So you need medical supervision and medical advice to deal with that. You will need some medication if your thyroid is not working appropriately, or some sort of treatment to sort that out. So, and that's nothing to do with your self-control, if it happens to be the case. But there are other issues that affect the size of your hunger. Some of them might be predisposed because of genetic makeup. However, even if in your family there is obesity and you might think that there is genetic predisposition, it doesn't mean that you are definitely destined to be obese. It just means that you have to be more careful, because we now know that the genes are switched on or off according to the environment. So you may have the gene, but it might never be switched on. If the environment is right and you take the right care, it might never be expressed. So somebody put it very, very simply, but very clearly, explaining that the genes are the musical instruments of an orchestra, but you and the environment are the conductors. So the fact that you have a predisposing gene doesn't mean that you're going to end up there's nothing you can do and end up being very obese, and there is no way of changing that. it may be that you need a different approach and you might need to be more careful and you might have to take that into consideration, but not a done deal that's it, that's how it's going to be. Now, what else influence hunger? Right. There are some prenatal conditions that might induce somebody later in life to develop problems with weight gain and perhaps even with diabetes. Now, it is known that there is a lot of research backing up the children who are born at birth with very low birth weight compared to their gestation date may have a tendency, and again, I'm expressing again, it's not a certainty, but they have a higher risk of developing sort of weight gain problems and perhaps even diabetes later on in life. This is also true for some children who are born by cesarean section. If they haven't acquired, because by not going through the birth canal, they don't get exposed to the bacteria that's in the birth canal that actually is something that sets up their digestive system and is actually beneficial. So if they miss that bit, it might be that they don't acquire from the beginning the right bacteria. I think now they're doing something like swabbing the baby with bacteria and so on, so that with the mother's healthy bacteria, but it's a known factor that it might affect some people. There are other medical conditions which I'm not going to go into, but well, you have to think that there are biological factors that influence the size of the hunger that someone will have. So it's not very kind and it's not very it's a bit unfair, really, to think that everybody has the same kind of hunger, the same size, and some people can control it and some people can't. It's very different. It's like if someone is asked to tame, two people are asked to tame a feline, but so you assume it's the same, but one is trying to tame a kitten and the other one trying to tame a tiger. It's not the same, and you shouldn't judge them by the same measurements. So right. So other than the biological factors that predetermine someone's more sort of risk of developing sort of eating habits that are not healthy, there are psychological factors. So what are these psychological factors? Well, first of all, is sometimes the conditioning. We are conditioned to think that certain foods are more yummy and more sort of rewarding, more comforting than others. And if you think about it, sugar, sweet things, we are conditioned to think that everything that's sweet is good and is rewarding and is yummy, and we're bombarded with the subliminal sort of messages throughout. When it's your birthday, you get a cake. If you invite people for tea and cake, and if you're being good, you get a bit. When you're a child, you might get a biscuit or you might get a sweet. So, and we talk about some home sweet home. So we constantly at the subliminal level getting these messages that sweets and sweet things are good. And before, we would have had some of these messages, but we would not have had the availability that we have now. The problem is that at the moment, in the world that we live in this sort of developed world, in this part of the world at the moment, we have an availability of food that is unthinkable, would have been unthinkable some years back, some decades back. So we might have had some sort of the same conditioning, but we didn't have the opportunity. Now we have the conditioning and we have the opportunity to go and get what we want at any time of the day. And that's not conducive to self-control. There are other psychological issues. There might be somebody might have had an experience where they probably were forbidden to have biscuits or forbidden to have whatever, and then they sort of go the extreme when they grow older, and they might have it's like, I'm not going to deny myself anything because I was denied enough things. Some people sadly also put on weight as a protection if they've been bullied or they've been sexually abused. Sadly, that it does happen. They perceive like if you make yourself invisible, if you make yourself less attractive, then you're less at risk. So they wouldn't think of this on a conscious level. They would probably do it at the subconscious level, but your subconscious seek to protect you from something that is dangerous or unpleasant. So everybody is completely different. But there are many things that might influence you. Like, for example, we've been taught as children, and I remember this as a child, you had to finish what was on your plate. And you had to finish what was in your plate. And in my case, you had to finish the bread. We always had bread with every meal, and the bread had to be finished. No matter what, you had to finish the bread. Because my parents went through Spanish Civil War, and there was a lot of hunger, and they were lucky now to have bread, to be able to provide bread for the family, so you had to eat it. So all this stuff, conditioning that we get, makes it quite difficult to make the right decisions. And then you get hooked to a particular kind of food because it becomes a habit, and the particular kind of food that you eat creates an environment in your gut that attracts one kind of bacteria or another. So this is the last thing I want to talk about regarding the latest research. It is now been researched, and there's a lot of books out there. You can just go and look at some of the books, that the bacteria that you have in your gut has an enormous influence on your health, because the gut is almost as a second brain. It has a direct link to the brain. So it tells you when you're hungry, and then you decide what it is that you want to eat. But it turns out the kind of bacteria that you have in your gut also determines the kind of food that you're going to desire. So if you eat a lot of sugary things and a lot of sweet things, you will have the kind of bacteria that likes that and will keep on putting the order to the brain to desire that, and then you go and get that. So you keep on putting the right environment. So there is a lot of adverts now, and you might have seen about probiotics, and Yakult and other brands of things. That's the only one I can think of right now that have probiotics, sort of yogurts and things that have live bacteria, which is good. They are good. The problem is that if you don't have the right environment in your gut, you will eat that bacteria. It will get to your gut. They will find that there is no room in the inn. They will find that there's absolutely full with the bacteria that's consuming the sugary stuff that you are eating, and therefore there's not the right environment. There are no vacancies, and they go again. So to change the bacteria in your gut, you need to change what you eat, and that's the catch-22. If you don't desire what the good bacteria wants, you will keep on eating what you desire, which is what the bad bacteria wants. So how do you break that vicious circle? Because the more you eat the unhealthy food, the more unhealthy bacteria there will be, the more they will put in the order for the stuff that's not good for you. Well, in fact, if you manage to get the right bacteria in your gut and maintain it, it will work for you. It will be more efficient in breaking down the right kind of foods with the right kind of nutrients. It will make your body function better. It will have your mind functioning better. There is a direct link between your gut and your mind. And if that wasn't the case, as some people say there isn't, then why do you prescribe antidepressants or antipsychotics or any medication for mental health that people swallow tablets? It goes through your gut and then it goes through your brain. It's so what you eat ends up affecting your mind, and it is important that you eat the right things. So if you have the right bacteria and you have the right food that the bacteria then converts into the right nutrients, they will go to you, all of the cells in your body and your mind, but also you will start desiring the good stuff. And this is what I am promoting to do with my sort of program for weight loss with hypnotherapy, which is to influence the mind, to influence your subconscious mind to desire what is good for you, what is good for you, for your gut, for the health in your gut. Because if you break that cycle, that sort of circle of gut, mind, desired food, and that then you actually, by affecting one of the three things, then you affect the whole system. And through hypnotherapy, you can give the right message to the subconscious, to tell the subconscious, actually, what I want to eat is a healthy food, and you can create the circumstances by which you will desire the healthy food. It will be easy, it will not be an effort, because at the moment, if you're not in accordance with your subconscious, then you are working against yourself. One part of your mind wants one thing, the other part wants something else. And when there is a battle between the two sides of the mind, the logical and the subconscious is the one that wins constantly. So there are ways of improving the whole system much better, eating better, eating the right kinds of food, getting prebiotics, which is preparing the body for the probiotics, for the right bacteria, so they actually stays. But all of these requires conscious effort. And if your mind is not working in tandem, if it's not working in agreement, it will make it very difficult. So if you introduce hypnotherapy to make those changes, then it should be a lot easier. And that is what I am proposing in this program that I am now delivering to already to some clients. And it's a 6-week program in which we look in depth at your own medical issues. But obviously, I'm not a medical practitioner. If there are any medical issues, you need to see a medical practitioner for that. And then we'll look into that and we'll accommodate the regime or whatever it is that is right for you. But basically what it is to find out your biological and psychological makeup, find out what is the best thing for you. For example, one of my clients has got an issue with the thyroid, so there are certain foods that she cannot eat, but there are others that she actually can, and are very easy for her to take. So taking all those things into account, there is a specific way of eating healthily for you, and then through hypnotherapy we change the old habits for new habits, and then we keep reinforcing those habits till they become automatic. And at the end of the 6 sessions, you will find it much easier to keep on eating in a healthy way, and you will also have a recording to keep reinforcing the message to your subconscious to keep on eating healthily. So if you are interested in this program, I would invite you to follow the link that you will see on this page, where you can actually contact me and have a 30-minute free consultation if you want to talk more before you decide if you want to follow this program or not, or you can directly just book in a session, an initial session. There is a link to my calendar, and you see the dates that are available and just what days would suit you. So I hope that even if you decided that this is not for you, that you have found this webinar interesting, and I look forward to seeing you either in one of my sessions or perhaps just welcoming you to another webinar. Thank you. Bye.